So, whenever I log into this channel, YouTube's always trying to recommend these sort of conservative reactionary videos. I don't know why. It's probably because of subjects that I've covered on here. But one of them was it had to do with Curb Your Enthusiasm, and the SJWs are so pissed off at Curb Your Enthusiasm, and so it kept recommending this thing, and I finally clicked on it, and it was just as vapid as I expected. But it made me want to actually talk about this season of Curb Your Enthusiasm. For those who've been watching it, it's been pretty underwhelming. I came into it with a hell of a lot of goodwill. I love Larry David. I'm also very happy that last year, I think his pop culture profile was probably the highest it's ever been when he was playing Bernie Sanders on Saturday Night Live, and he hosted Saturday Night Live for the first time. So yeah, it was a good year for him, and so I was excited when they said they were bringing the show back. Though I do think I think the decline of the show was so gradual that it never got that bad. It's kind of like The Simpsons, where the early seasons are so great that when it devolved into a competent sitcom, when it devolved into something that was good by any other standard, it becomes disappointing. And I was one of those people. I defended The Simpsons, way, way beyond the expiration, because to say, well, no, it's not bad, but it has reached that point where it's like it's not even an important distinction anymore. But so fuck it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't defend The Simpsons now. And Curb is reaching a point, and it's hard to put my finger on why exactly, because I do think definitely, I think from season 5 onward in Curb, that's when he started bringing on consulting producers, people he worked with on Seinfeld, and they started influencing the direction of the stories. And I do think the show was better when it was pure Larry, which obviously was a lot of work, because even though the dialogue is improvised, a lot of work goes into those stories. They're very intricate. They're very, with all the things being woven together, story threads, and he is the master of that. And once he started bringing more voices in, that's when, I don't know, it's I guess the word is broader. It gets broader, which in some ways is inevitable. That happens with shows. That happened with Peep Show. Anything that stays on. People may have the same complaint about The Simpsons, even though it's a cartoon. But it's like as it goes on, um, things get wackier, because you kind of exhaust all the ideas that are plausible, and then you just start going into weirdness. But and in the case of Curb, because it has reached a point. I was talking about this with my friend Phil and my wife. My wife hadn't seen a lot of Curb, but when the news, in anticipation of the new season, when we subscribed to HBO, we were watching a lot of the older episodes, just kind of skipping around, just kind of watching the great ones, and we watched the first episode of season 3, which by any standard, well, it's a perfect Curb episode, but it's an average. I mean, it's good, it's really good, but it's like an average Curb. But it's a perfect example of all the Curb elements, where you have Larry and Cheryl. They have a picture that they need framed, and their friend is doing it for them, but their friend's husband has passed away. So but it's been a few months. So Larry's like, okay, do we mention the frame? Is it too, it's been a few months. Maybe we should bring up the frame. And Larry brings up the frame, and she goes, well, my husband passed away. And he goes, yeah, but it's been a few months. And that's a perfect Curb scenario, because you're like, Larry, no, you shouldn't say that. You have a point, though. I mean, you're not wrong, but you shouldn't. It's like, with Larry, it's always like, okay, you don't say it, but you do. You're not wrong. And then of course he sees a photo of the husband and he says, "Oh, that's a nice shirt. Where do you know where he got that?" And then he buys the shirt, and then Ted Danson likes it, so he buys Ted Danson a shirt as a gift, but it's a little torn. And he's like, "Oh, well, I'm sure if you bring it into the shop, they can fix it for you." And Ted's like, "Hey, Larry, this is supposed to be a gift, but you've just handed me a problem. It's not a gift." And again, it's like another situation where it's like, "Oh yeah," so it's like he's handing up. It's like they both have points, but it's and that's like the golden area where Curb mines for humor. This video was like saying, "Oh, he's great because he like nothing, no topics are off limits." Well, yeah, no, it's true, and like, well, he can take on very difficult topics and find humor in them. But also the other thing about Curb is that it's very similar to Seinfeld in the sense of like no hugging, no learning. It's pure funny, but that also means it doesn't delve deep. There's never any, when relatives die, it's like when his own mother dies on the show. It's hysterically funny when he finds out from his father. It's one of the funniest scenes in the show. But you don't feel the emotional weight of anything that happens. And so he has to find the right way to deal with certain subjects. And this past season has been very sloppy with that. I made a whole video. Oh, yeah, I was out of frame. I'm sorry. I'm not paying attention. But I made a whole video about triggered jokes, and I was making that complaint just because because a lot of people they don't realize that getting triggered it's an actual thing. It's not just getting annoyed by something. It's a response to, it's an actual thing for people who suffer post-traumatic stress disorder. And sure enough, there was a story. There was an episode of Curb about a soldier who hadn't suffered post-traumatic stress disorder, but through the course of the story, he experiences a trauma and then he experiences post-trauma. It's so ploddingly set up that you see it coming. I mean, like 2 steps ahead, and then the payoff is lame. And this is why this video that I saw. I think this must have been posted at the beginning of the season. And again, they're just wringing their hands because they want people. They're hoping SJWs are offended by this season, but it's like, no, it's just been very by Curb standards. It's you shouldn't see all the moving pieces, but you see them all, and usually like all the story threads are supposed to come together in the end. And with these episodes, the episode ends, and you're like, "Oh, that's it? Wait, what? What was that? Why did it? And what about the other thing?" Because I guess sometimes some threads move into the next episodes. It's kind of it's I guess the more modern approach. It's a little more serialized, but still, it's like, yeah. The episode used to be a self-contained thing with everything so intricately woven, and that's, I don't know, it's been losing that element. And when Larry says things, he's just being an asshole. It's like, what like you don't even know, there's no underlying truth to what he's saying, and I can't even think of examples now because it's already kind of fading from my memory most of this season. And to be honest, the last few seasons, even though it's been off the air for 6 years, but yeah, it's been kind of not bad because still the people making it are very funny. Larry's very funny, and all of his collaborators. Susie Essman is great. JB Smoove, Leon's a great character, but I was also thinking definitely when Cheryl was kind of not written out because she's still around. She's just not. When they got a divorce, which made sense because it mirrored his real life divorce, but it changed the dynamic of the show because Cheryl was the straight man. You know what I mean? Because in comedy, you need the funny person, you need the straight person, and I think that made the show grounded. And when it lost that, it opened up story possibilities because Larry could do stories about dating and all that stuff. And Leon is a funny character. I mean, they did strike gold with Leon, but it's a duo of like it's two funny people. And also they have to justify, or not, well, they barely justify why Leon still lives with him. Because it's kind of like if I guess if you were to do a modern version of Laurel and Hardy, you'd probably have to like, it was like, well, why do they live together? I don't know, they just do. One of them's rich, and so the other one just lives with him. So it's like being, so they just realized like we need Leon around, so we'll just have him live with them. We won't, no need to explain it, but. But still, just like without Cheryl there as a constant influence, it really changes the dynamic of the whole show. It's just a bunch of people, a bunch of funny people, occupying this world, but nothing really keeping it to Earth. If that makes sense, I don't know. Just rambling on this subject. I don't know. It's disappointing. It's why I subscribe to HBO. I don't watch Game of Thrones, so I subscribed to watch the new season of Curb and catch up with Silicon Valley. And that was good. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's gotten sloppy story wise and gotten way more slick in terms of production. It looks like a movie now, which is strange. But it doesn't feel improvised. I guess they're still improvising the dialogue. It just doesn't feel improvised anymore. That was another thing that I was hoping for, like, because I think in the early episodes, the stories, they were intricate, but there was probably less story, so there was more room for improv. The conversations feel real. It feels like they're actually happening, and that's another thing that the show's lost. Yeah, I don't know. Curb.